Welcome back to part two of our Ingram Angle exclusive with Donald Rumsfeld. I ask him why the Bushes seem to have such a problem with him and the many foreign policy challenges facing President Trump. I want to move on to North Korea because obviously this continues to be such a difficult problem, seemingly intractable problem for the United States. We seem to be kind of relying a lot on China. And I was going back and Donald Rumsfeld warning China over military expansion in October of 2005. You were on
That's a vicious thing to quote me.
You were on the China watch in way back, and you were concerned about the buildup of their military. And now China's flying missions right near our joint missions with South Korea this week, coming very close to where we were, kind of sending a message: don't provoke North Korea. What about China? What do we do with China right now in this situation?
Well, it's a new period. China's a major power, and certainly in that part of the world. And it strikes me that President Trump is focusing on the right thing, to be interested in the behavior on the part of the North Koreans. And I don't doubt for a minute but that his effort to engage China on that subject is the right thing to do.
China, what are our choices?
Exactly. China's a reality. It's very active in the South China Sea. I think the world is
What's a bigger threat to us, I'll say, Russia or China? Who's a bigger threat to the United States, Russia or China?
I suppose I'd answer the question by saying it depends on who's in the saddle in those countries and which one is more likely to make a mistake. Because it's not in either of those countries' interest to engage us militarily. And it would only happen through an error. And my personal view is that the fact that Trump, I don't know President Trump, I've never met him, but that I can recall. But I certainly think that his demeanor in the presidency is a deterrent for those countries.
Because he seems well, like because shoot from the hip kind of thing.
Well, he's not tucked in and worried and cautious. He's a bold leader, and he speaks his mind. And it seems to me that people sitting in the Kremlin and in Beijing, seeing that, are probably respectful of the fact that they ought. That it's not in their interest to engage in things that are disadvantageous to the United States.
President Obama was over traveling in India and other countries last week, and he talked about dangerous currents of populism on the left and right. But he said, and he kind of threw in the left and right, in that we have a leadership vacuum in the United States when it comes to issues like climate change. Do you think it's wise to have a former president of the United States on the global scene? Not so veiled criticism of the current president?
Wise, I don't know that I'd use the word wise or unwise. It's unfortunate. Most people, when they're overseas, tend to be more supportive of our country and more critical of our country when they're here at home. And that's free play and free speech, and one has to respect everyone's right to be critical. But most people do their criticism at home rather than abroad.
The Bushes, over the years, have taken some swipes at you, H.W. and W. George H.W. Bush, Bush 41, said that he, at one point or another, said that you and Cheney were basically pushing us into the Iraq War. And W. made a comment in a book that was published this month. He said, the fact that there was any doubt in anyone's mind about who the president was blows my mind. Cheney and Rumsfeld didn't make one blanking decision.
Yeah, he's right. I think that his father, who's getting up in years, made some comments about Cheney and Rumsfeld. Fair enough. He's always felt competitive, I think, to both of us. And so it doesn't surprise me. But George W. Bush, who was president, was the decider. He was the president of the United States. Cheney wasn't. I wasn't. And he's exactly correct in his statement. And it was kind of, I think, stiffing arm his father a bit by saying that. And I think it would be wrong to have said anything else. Obviously, he's talking about big decisions, and he was the president, and he made those big decisions. Cheney didn't, and Rumsfeld didn't. And obviously, Cheney gave advice to the president as vice president, and I made an awful lot of decisions relating to the Defense Department, but not presidential level decisions.
Do you keep in touch with George W. Bush?
I've seen him, not a lot, but I've seen him. And
what's the relationship like? It's
good. It's fine. He's a thoughtful person, and I thought he was a good president. And I think the country was lucky he was there on 9/11, and he's doing some good things for the military now.
No, he sure is. But so the HW comments from that Meacham biography back in 2015, we said, I don't like what Rumsfeld did, and I think it hurt the president having his iron-ass view of everything. I've never been that close to him anyway. There's a lack of humility, a lack of seeing what the other guy thinks. He's more kick-ass and take names, take numbers. I think he paid a price for that. Rumsfeld was an arrogant fellow and self-assured swagger.
Interesting. Well, he came into the Congress and basically wanted to be president. I was in Congress when he arrived. And he comes in, and he barely was a congressman. He was constantly running for president. And he wanted to be president, and he got it. He made it by becoming Reagan's vice president. And he was very ambitious, and he felt competitive with me during that period. I tried to run for president at one point, and obviously didn't become president, but that doesn't surprise me a bit. I don't get up and say things like that about other people myself. But
were you surprised he didn't vote for Trump, and neither did George W.?
I didn't know that, but I've read. Somebody told me they read that. I'm not surprised about Herbert Walker Bush, and nothing surprises me. On W, did he say he didn't vote for?
He didn't vote for anyone, apparently. None of the above.
He didn't vote for Hillary, I bet.
No.
No. I voted for Trump, and I wouldn't have voted for Hillary. And I get up in the morning and say to myself, I think the country's better off today than if we had Hillary in the presidency.